एवं क्रियाशारीर विभाग की तरफ से आयोजित इस नाड़ी व्याख्यान में आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। हमारे साथ आज उपस्थित है आचार्य संजय कुमार छाजेड़ सर, जो कि मुंबई से है। सर, नाड़ी परीक्षा का कोई अगर विषय आता है तो सबसे पहला नाम आचार्य संजय कुमार सर का आता है और आज ये हमारा भाग्य है कि हम इनको सुन पा रहे हैं। तो मैं स्वागत करती हूँ सर का। सर का करीब करीब 30 साल से नाड़ी परीक्षा में अभ्यास है और ना केवल भारत में बट भारत के बाहर भी सर के काफी सेशंस वर्कशॉप चलते हैं। सर की खासियत ये है कि सर हिंदी, मराठी, गुजराती, कन्नड़ा सभी लैंग्वेज में अपना वर्कशॉप लेते हैं और हम भी यहाँ पर सर को आमंत्रित करने वाले हैं एक ऑफलाइन वर्कशॉप के लिए। बट जैसे आपको इंट्रोडक्टरी थोड़ा सा तो पता चले नाड़ी के बारे में, इसके लिए हमने आज ये ऑनलाइन सेशन यहाँ पर आपके लिए रखा है। तो ज्यादा समय ना लेते हुए मैं सर का स्वागत करती हूँ इस सत्र में।
रागादिरोगान् सततानुसक्तान् अशेषकाय प्रसृतान् शेषान् औत्सुक्यमोहारतिजान् जगान् यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोस्तु तस्मै यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोस्तु तस्मै यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोस्तु तस्मै. Good morning, friends. It was always a pleasure to be with the younger generation of Ayurveda, and even today, I feel it is great privilege to be associated with you all, the young minds of Ayurveda. I understand one fact, that if Ayurveda has to grow, it will be only with these younger minds. We, the senior people, only can advise you, but active participation will be done, carried out only by you people. So, with these words, let me convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Shilpa for inviting me and providing me an opportunity to interact with you all. I wanted to begin the today's talk because topic of today's talk is very excellent. The recent advances in pulse diagnosis. In that recent advances in pulse diagnosis, what I found, very useful, is the advent of AI. Let me share with you all and talk by none other than I'm sharing my screen, and probably then I won't be able to admit. So I'll make Dr. Shilpa the host so she can. Dr. Shilpa, please. Dr. Shilpa, you will be the host here onwards. So please admit the newcomers. Okay? I'm going to share something.
Last year at Google I/O, we announced Google AI. It's a collection of our teams and efforts to bring the benefits of AI to everyone. And we want this to work globally, so we are opening AI centers around the world. AI is going to impact many, many fields. And I want to give you a couple of examples today. Healthcare is one of the most important fields AI is going to transform. Last year, we announced our work on diabetic retinopathy. It's a leading cause of blindness, and we use deep learning to help doctors diagnose it earlier. And we've been running field trials since then at Aravind and Sankara hospitals in India. The field trials are going really well. We are bringing expert diagnosis to places where trained doctors are scared. It turned out, using the same retinal scan, there were things which humans quite didn't know to look for, but our AI systems offered more insights. Your same eye scan turns out holds information with which we can predict the 5-year risk of you having an adverse cardiovascular event, heart attack or stroke. So to me, the interesting thing is that, more than what doctors could find in the eye scans, the machine learning systems offer newer insights. This could be the basis for a new non-invasive way to detect cardiovascular risk. And we just published the research, and we are going to be working to bring this to the field trial.
So with these beautiful words by none other than Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, you all might be aware about him. He has documented, and this lecture is not new. Many of you might have heard this lecture earlier. This is from 2019 on Google Foundation Day, where always the CEO provides an insight about what is happening in Google arena. In 2019, he predicted this particular thing about Google AI working in healthcare. And they use retinoscope to do that. You are all students of physiology, and I'm sure that you are aware that retina is nothing but an artery. When we talk about Nadi Pariksha, we talk about examination of an artery, because yadhamnate sanadi, where there is a pulsation is Nadi. Rather, Charka has very categorically said, Trine Kotyani Nadyaha, Bana Dhamanyaha, Sravanastotansi, Sarnat Siraha. But when it comes to examination, he has always advocated the examination of the pulsating artery. And that is undoubtedly the dhamani. When we go through various texts from Ayurveda, right from Atharva Veda to Charak Samhita to Sharangar, Bhav Prakash, Yog Ratnakar, Vaidya Vinod Sahita 2, Sharir Nadi Tattva Darshan. Everywhere we will find only one thing, very predominantly by all the sages, that when we are talking about Nadi Pariksha, we talk about pulsating artery. We talk about a tube which is a pulsating nature. And it was very well known to the mankind that if this pulsating area ceases pulsation, it's a sign of death. Spandananam cha aspandanam parasuriti vidyan. Spandananam cha aspandanam parasuriti vidyan. So, once you are aware about this, once you are known to this particular phenomena, that it's a sign of life. Nirvana dhamadyaha sacha jiva sakshini. When the artery or the dhamni is pulsating, it is indicative of life. It tells you about life. And so examination of the nadi, examination of the pulse itself is indicative of that particular phenomena, which is called Nadi Pariksha. I am glad to know that Dr. Shilpa has shared with you the insight and the details about 5-level pulse diagnosis program of Sahaj Nadi Pariksha, which I am preaching for last more than 30 years. It's good to see that younger generation is taking the keen interest in this age-old process of diagnosis through examination of the pulsating artery. As you have heard, Sundar Pichai, the AI, artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning are some of the terms which are being used by Sundar Pichai. These are the buzzword of the technology. The latest technology, all latest diagnostic instrumentation, all latest analytical instrumentation, all instrumentation as a whole, or Internet of Things, they all are based on the AI. I'm sure many of you might be using chatbots and ChatGPT. How many of you have heard about ChatGPT and chatbots? Anybody? So, when you will come in the market, another 4 years down the line, when you will be graduate, 5, 7 years, 7, 8 years down the line, when you will be postgraduates and you will be hitting the market, that time, probably the AI will be highly dominating. ChatGPT has already started replacing the many areas. Diagnostic process are also going to be part of it. As on today, 35 to 40% of the medical diagnostic process are being taken over by AI-based instrumentation. And by 2035, it is understood that more than 90% of the diagnostic process, including that of Ayurveda, will be taken care by AI-based or machine learning programs, ChatGPT-like programs, or by deep learning. Because when there are multiple efforts to be taken, the ChatGPT becomes much better. The AI becomes much better than the human efforts. So, when we talk about recent advances in Nadi Pariksha, we'll have to understand that how the things are moving. Like the first machine for pulse reading was developed in 1654. That was called as pulse counting machine. We are still using the machine, but with a different name, with an absolute different name. And the today's name for that machine is stopwatch. Today's name for that machine is stopwatch. And then in 17th, late 18th century, we had sphygmometer. The sphygmometer was making a graph out of pulsations by a machine tied up to the wrist, and a graph was created. Rather, all the graphs we found across all the books on medicine, diagnostics, everywhere of the pulse are being evolved and created from those sphygmometers. The sphygmometers were in use till 1920. And as advent of ECG occurred, slowly the sphygmometers died. They become extinct. Why it was so? Reason was very simple. Earlier it was understood that pulse is the expression of the heart. Pulse is an expression of the heart. And when we understand the pulse in better sense, we understand the physiology and the pathology happening in the heart. So anything going wrong in the cardiac movement, in the cardiac activity, were detected by the pulse movements. And variety of variations in the pulse were observed, documented, and its relationship with various conditions of the heart were being established. In 1951, people started trying to digitalize the Ayurvedic concept of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. I'm sure you all are aware about these terms, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. These are nothing but the three biological energy sources which manages to maintain the physiological or the pathological status of the body and helps to maintain its condition. If they are in the equilibrium, they maintain the health. If these energies loses the equilibrium, that transforms into a disease process. Vikaru, dosha vaishamyam, dhatu samyam, arogatam. These are very classic words maintained and mentioned by Charaka. And rather, all Ayurvedic text carries the same meaning. But here, we seems to have forgotten the information provided by Charaka. In Sutrasthan 30th, Atha Dasha Mahamuliya Sutriya Adhyay, Charaka has very categorically told us about variations in the pulsation is an occurrence because of the qualitative changes and the quantitative changes occurring inside that pulsating artery. And this qualitative and quantitative changes inside that pulsating artery are because of nothing but the changes occurring in the rasa to oja, the dhatus. He has used the word rasa oja. So all the dhatus are covered in it. So any qualitative or quantitative change in those precursors of the dhatus, parinam apatyamananam dhatunam abhivanti sasrotansi. And srotasa are nothing but the extension of nutritive supply chain of the artery towards every tissue. So this artery carries nothing but the precursor nutritive material to the of the dhatus through them, and any qualitative and quantitative change in that will reflect in the qualitative variation in the pulsation. And Charka categorically said once that if you can detect this qualitative change in the system with the help of 3 fingers, we can identify the qualitative and quantitative variations happening in the precursors or the final dhatus which are present in the system. And that is how we understand the health and illness in any person. My dear friends, what an insight it was 5,000 years ago. Without any instrumentation, without any microscopic analysis, without even a single Doppler study. We have been equipped by everything in the last 40 years, but still we are unable to end up with the diagnosis. That is why. And that is why. Pulse analysis, pulse reading for diagnosis is a new subject which is popping up. The old Nadi Pariksha, the age-old Nadi Pariksha has now come to its own age. And now it has been one of the most developing phenomena across the world. There are more than 2,000 machines available in the world which can be helped for reading the pulse. Majority of them are based on Chinese algorithm. Very few of them uses the Ayurvedic information and algorithm. I am fortunate enough for studying Ayurveda at India's most premium Ayurveda Institute, the Institute of National Pride, the ITRA, with the best teachers. Madhvashri, Professor Gurdeep Singh sir was my teacher. So we had an elaborate understanding of the concept of doshas, which of course your beloved teacher, Dr. Shilpa, knows them very well. And I'm sure if you are not interested, leave the class. Dr. Shilpa?
हाँ सर.
Why this sound?
Nothing, sir. You can continue.
If they don't want to attend, please ask them to leave. It is not compulsory for anybody to attend such classes.
No, no, sir. That's not. Sir, please continue. Yes, sir.
So, when you are aware about the concept of Tridosha, then understanding pulse becomes very easy. Every variation in the pulse is because of the movement of the fluid which has been thrown with the help of the pump called heart inside the circulatory system of the body, which carries all the nutritive material which are required for various tissues. And from those nutritive material, what we get are the variations in the pulse quality. In illness, there is a variation in the cardiac movement. There are variations in the arterial pathway. There are variations in the surroundings. And of course, there are variations in the qualitative and quantitative aspect of the fluid which is flowing through. So this lead to variations in the, not only in the artery, but the fluid flowing and the pulsations happening. These pulsations are a sum total of the activity of heart, which is indefinitely because of Vyana Vayu, but are controlled by sympathetic, parasympathetic system and vagus nerve. And with this sympathetic, parasympathetic and vagus nerve in action, what you get is the variations in the pressure, variations in the contraction of the myocardium, variations in the resistance of the arterial system, and leading to variations of the protein synthesis within the arterial system that create the elasticity variations and ultimately the changes in the pulse. These changes are variety, and there are multiple machines been in use for understanding these variations. I'll be introducing you some of those recent advances. We'll start with first study. It was done by none other than Dr. Deshabandhu Bajpayee of Kanpur. He is a physician by qualification, was studying in Germany, and there he had a thought that if cardiac rhythm can be measured by the electric current and cardiac activity can be understood with ECG, the electrocardiogram, so why cannot the dosha movement within the body can be understood with the same system? So he developed a machine called electrophysiograph, ETG. It was the first technology ever developed by an Indian for Indian kind of activity of understanding of Vata, Pitta and Kapha, and electrophysiograph was born. It was late in the 80s when electrophysiograph was developed. Unfortunately, this is unfortunate. Instead of going to the stakeholders directly, he opted a route to go through the bureaucrats and the officiating people from Ayush department, and then it was not Ayush department, then it was CCIM. And unfortunately, it didn't saw, though everybody appreciated the program, it never communicated to Ayurveda community or the fraternity ever. Later on, in 2000, 14 years down the line, a Russian scientist developed another program with the help of Professor Ram Manohar from Amrita Institute of Ayurveda or Amrita Institute of Health Sciences, one of the very renowned expert of Ayurveda, and yes, Vaidya Vasant Lad, the author of Secrets of the Pulse, one of the renowned Nadi Pariksha and Nadi teacher from USA, known worldwide for his book Secrets of the Pulse. They developed a machine called Veda Pulse. Can you see this machine, Veda Pulse? Veda Pulse is a very simple machine which measures electrical movement across both arms, and an algorithm, very specially designed algorithm, was used to plot a graph and charts to analyze the dosha, analyze the Pancha Mahabhutas, analyze the systems, analyze the organs, analyze the chakras, understand this. And recently, a new addition has occurred that they have added a component, a new unit of understanding the variations with the herbs. So Veda Pulse was the largely acknowledged machine. It came to India in 2000, started slowly progression across the Ayurveda fraternity. But of course, the cost was a deterrent. It is because it's an imported machine from Russia with all possible algorithm. If you want to buy the machine, it costs you somewhere in the range of 4,200 US dollars, inclusive of taxations, attracts maximum custom duties. As not categorized being as a medical instrument, it attracts maximum custom duty. Thereafter, on Indian subcontinent, not much of work was done till 2004, when Dr. Aniruddha Joshi decided, he's an engineer by qualification, decided to do his PhD from IIT Mumbai and worked on the subject of digitalization of pulse diagnosis process, which was shown to him, guided by none other than one of the another expert Nadi Pariksha from Pune, Dr. Ashok Vaidya. Unfortunately, he is no more now. But the machine, the work Dr. Aniruddha Joshi did as his PhD work at IIT Mumbai. Later on, he created a company called Acharya Innovations, and in 2014, they launched another machine, which is very well known because 2 years ago, this machine was given second award for IT-based solutions for Ayurveda, Nadi Tarangini. Many of you might have seen this. Probably your college have one. This is Nadi Tarangini. And it comes with a thing where it can be placed on the artery of the patient as one which is nearest to the thumb is representing Vata, the middle one representing Pitta, and the last one representing Kapha. So it is very simple. So this machine was created. I've been using it since then, 2014. Very good machine by the standard of 2014's technology. Earlier machine was using electrical current to understand the variations in the pulsation. This machine was using pressure sensors to understand the air column movement happening between the artery and the very special, if you can see the biconvex tips, patented tips created by Dr. Aniruddha. So this allowed a vacuum between the artery and the sensors within. And this vacuum was allowing the air column movement. And this air column movement was measured with the help of specially designed sensors created by Dr. Aniruddha. This provides triple graphs, graph of Vata, Pitta and Kapha, And it also developed an algorithm to analyze 5 sets of 2 qualities each. Because Ayurveda understand the qualities in the body are in the set of 2 couples, like 10 sets. Guru, Madhya, Himasnik, Gastaksna, Sandra, Mudustiraha, Gunaha, Sasukshma Vishada, Vishati Saviparre. There are 10 pairs, and out of which Nadi Tarangini could identify 5 pairs and tried to provide a graphical representation in its report about the qualitative analysis of these 5 pairs of guna. This led to qualitative analysis of and quantitative analysis of Pancha Mahabhutas and Tridoshas. This was a very fantastic initiation and helped those techno-savvy Vaidyas who wanted to use technology for pulse diagnosis. In 2016, another engineer from Bengaluru started working on the same aspect of Nadi Pariksha, and he developed a machine called Nadi Swara. As the name suggests, Nadi Swara was nothing but analyzing the Shabda Guna or the sound waves created because of the flow in the arterial system at radial artery, and that flow, the sound waves created by the flow were analyzed. They were taken up with a very high sensitive microphone fitted inside this. This is Nadi Swara. This is Nadi Swara. And then those sound waves were analyzed in various frequencies. By the time there were well documented and millions of data points available on the net to suggest which energy level represents which dosha. 2019, and new technology was introduced. And that new technology was photoplethysmography. Photoplethysmography is like we had Shabda, then came the Rupa. Photo is light, and light helps to see. So, a technology called AYURVED was introduced in 2019. And this AYURVED used the camera of your mobile phone, the smartphones. In Android, it was front camera. In iPhones, it was back camera. With the use of flash light, they started taking 18 pictures per second of the flow, because the camera and the flash in your smartphone uses laser lights. So it has a penetrating power. And successive photographs were analyzed with a special algorithm, and a Vata Pitta Kapha analysis was possible. Ayurveda rocked the world. It hit the first Shark Tank, had the funding. The only Ayurveda app could got funding. Last year, we were adjudged as the best IT solution for Ayurveda. And in 2020, we had COVID with us. All the process where the human touch is involved, where touching is required, were almost non-existent. And the world was looking for something where human touch can be avoided. And diagnosis, still diagnosis, the breast diagnosis should be possible. And Ayurveda came very handy that time. But Ayurveda was meant for personal use. It was not designed and developed for doctors to use it for their patients. And meanwhile, we all were aware about a fact and a machine called oximeter. I'm sure all of you have seen this machine during lockdown. The pulse oximeter. This machine is based on the same technology, the pulse plethysmography. Plethysma is artery. Plethysma is artery. And pulse is from the pulse. And then it became pulse photoplethysmography. Though it was providing lot information other than only the SpO2 and the pulse count, during the time of COVID, everybody concentrated only on these two facts: pulse oxygen and pulse rate. But then, as we were studying, we had an idea that we can use these graphs if you can access the graphs, because the traditional pulse oximeters were not made to access the pulse graph, and there was no possibility to analyze those graphs. So then we developed in 2021, and which was launched in 2022 WAC last year, and that was SANAI, Sahaj Nadi Yantra. Sahaj Nadi Yantra is nothing but an advanced variation of pulse oximeter, which has special software tips and analytical algorithm, which can tell you about the dosha variations in the pulse. The qualitative analysis of the artery helps you, because this works with a graph and an app developed for Android as of today. It's only available on Android. It is not available on Apple OS as of today. But with this Android app, you should be able to not only record the complete history of the patient, along with that, you should be able to record all the 5 levels of Sahaja Nadi Pariksha. You can calculate the Prakriti Pariksha like Shilpa Madam's Prakriti calculator. We have inbuilt 3 sets of 10 questions, the 30 questions in all, to help you to analyze the Prakriti of the patient. That can also be determined by the doctor. And then later on, the photoplethysmography of the pulse, which helps you to understand the dosha status at that point of time in the person. I'm glad to share with you all that Ayurveda has more than 1.1 billion downloads, and SANAI is probably the world's fastest growing and selling Nadi Pariksha machine. Nadi Tarangini is costing around 55,000 rupees. Nadi Swara is costing around 35,000 rupees. I told you about Veda Pulse. It's around 4 lakh rupees. On the contrary, this machine costs you only 7,000 rupees. And you can do unlimited Nadi analysis. Unlimited Nadi analysis of your patients. Keep the data of your patients. Keep the entire clinical record of your patient. Keep the data of Nadi Pariksha of your patients. These are the latest trends of technology in Nadi Pariksha. Now, the floor is open for question and answers. If you have any question and answers, please ask them. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. Dr.
Yes,
Shilpa.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
very much, sir. बहुत ही अद्भुत तरीके से आपने बताया. It's very proud feeling as a student of your. So it's a great pride to be here, sir. I request all the students, if any questions, they can ask directly. बहुत ही सरल तरीके से सर ने काफी सारे यंत्रों के बारे में बताया है जो आप अपनी प्रैक्टिस में इसका प्रयोग कर सकते हैं. तो जो मैंने आपको फाइल लेवल का जो नाड़ी परीक्षा पढ़ाया है उसको लेकर या इंस्ट्रूमेंट को लेकर जो भी आपको कुछ क्वेश्चन है नाड़ी परीक्षा को लेकर, आपके सामने आज नाड़ी परीक्षा के मास्टर है, तो आप इसका ये उठाइएगा, आनंद उठाइएगा. यस प्लीज.
Don't hesitate asking questions just because I am teacher of your teacher. It is just an age is a factor. I born 40 years advance of you. That is the only reason. So be comfortable. And I love to answer the questions of younger generation because the younger minds are the better minds. They have lot of queries. They should have lot of queries. The mind, a professional mind without query is as good as having no mind. So please put your queries so I can answer them if I can.
Good evening, sir. Good afternoon, sir. So this is Shubhi from S.G.R college. So sir, मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि जो नाड़ी परीक्षण है वो एम्प्टी स्टमक क्यों की जाती है, मतलब?
बहुत आसान सी बात है बेटा. जब हम आहार लेते हैं तो हमारी आहार पचन प्रक्रिया में अवस्था पाक की एक स्थिति होती है और अवस्था पाक की स्थिति में जब तक आमाशय में अन्न है तब तक दोषों का एक विशिष्ट संचरण शरीर में होता है. जैसे प्रथम अवस्था पाक में कफ का, द्वितीय अवस्था पाक में पित्त और कटु अवस्था पाक में वात की निर्मिति और संचरण होता है. तो वो नाड़ी परीक्षा में बाधा निर्माण करते हैं. इसीलिए शायद नाड़ी परीक्षा करते वक्त हमें खाली पेट नाड़ी परीक्षा करने का निर्देश दिया है. अब खाली पेट का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपने सिर्फ सवेरे करना है. अगर आपका स्टमक खाली है, एक एवरेज एम्प्टिंग टाइम फॉर स्टमक इज अराउंड 3.5 hours. So my take on all this, if you can want to do the Nadi Pariksha, you can do it after 3.5 hours of normal food one has consumed. If you have an excessive heavy food, you are not supposed to do Nadi Pariksha immediately. Somebody had some other question. It was written something. I'll read it for you. On an average, the introduction of Nadi Pariksha can be learned in 5.5 hours. And if you have better knowledge of Ayurveda, you can always learn it in lesser time than that. I learned Nadi Pariksha in 2.5 hours, 2 hours rather, not even 2.5 hours. So to learn Nadi Pariksha, I conduct 1 day, full day program, as Dr. Shilpa was sharing with you, that we wanted to conduct offline program. I'm already conducting my 304th offline program on this Sunday in Mumbai, suburb of Mumbai rather. Tomorrow I'll be conducting 303rd program at Ville Parle. It will be the 304th program will be in Badlapur. And soon I may be coming to Sakaram, maybe from Jain Aushadhalaya, S.G.R. Ayurved College, Solapur. The moment your college invites me.
Yes, sure.
Any more questions?
Any more?
Yeah, please. Ask your questions.
Yes.
No more questions? I'm surprised. Huh? These many young people had no questions. I could see Dr. Ishad, who was there last time asking a lot of questions. Today he seems to be getting dried up of the questions. Huh? You guys, and I'm sure Dr. Shilpa, you must have taught them in a very beautiful way, so they understand Nadi Pariksha in much better way, so they don't have remained with any questions.
So,
thank you very much.
आज के इस सत्र में क्रियाशाली विभाग द्वारा आयोजित इस नाड़ी परीक्षा रिसर्च एडवांसेस प्रोफेशनल औपचारिक रूप से वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए मैं हमारे विभाग के असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर जयकुमार सर को आमंत्रित करती हूँ. डॉक्टर आड़े सर. Dr. Anes, sir, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please.
So today's lecture was on the Nadi. First of all, I would like to thank Nadi Guru Sri Acharya Sanjay sir for delivering such a knowledgeful lecture. I assure to my student that sir have always given us support to our institute, and most important thing is that सर हमेशा हमारे साथ रहे हैं. एंड जब भी हम सर को बोलते हैं कि सर एक नाड़ी पे सेशन हो जाए तो सर हमेशा हमें कोऑपरेट करते हैं. सो थैंक यू सो मच सर फॉर योर वंडरफुल सेशन. एंड सेकेंड वन, आई would like thanks to my HOD for arranging such a knowledgeful lecture. And last one, to all my students for listening the session very keenly. With the permission of Acharya Sanjay sir and Shilpa ma'am, I would like conclude my session.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.